Well, hello, everybody. Hope you're doing good today. This is Friday, and we're getting ready. I got on my red shirt to remember everybody deployed, everyone deployed, and we need to remember our folks that are deployed in service and protection of our nation and their families. And whether you agree with where they're at and what they're doing or not, they're doing their duty, and we need to support them. And we need to support them in prayer for protection and also for the families. And I know how that is. You could be worried a lot of times more about them than they are about themselves when they're over there in places that are not friendly to us. And even here, sometimes they're not really friendly to the American way. But we need to remember those folks and keep them in our prayers every day. But I ask you if you hadn't prayed for your soldiers and their families in a long time, to use today, Red Shirt Friday, and ask the Lord to help them. And to strengthen the hedge about them and about our nation. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on. This is part 4 of our series about hedges. I'm going to get into some examples and a couple of examples where God had a very strong hedge around his people. And so we can kind of see some things in the Bible where this is other than places of Job where this has happened. Deuteronomy chapter 3. This is Moses who is talking. This is about the 38th year in of the wandering in the wilderness, and he's telling the children of Israel that were with him, who were not old enough or mature enough to experience a lot of the things. A lot of them hadn't even been born. A lot of them were born during this time that they were wandering in the wilderness, but letting them know what things that the Israelites had passed through from their deliverance out of Egypt and the bondage, and what happened on the way. And I'm going to go ahead and get in here and read. This is something he was reminding them of that has happened before. This is chapter 3. I'm going to read about 6 verses here, or maybe 7. Verse 2 says, "And the Lord said unto me," talking about Moses, "Fear not, for I will deliver him and all his people and his land into thy hand." He's talking about a certain king we'll get into here in a minute, into thy hand, and thou shalt do unto him as thou didst unto Sihon, Sihon, the king of the Amorites, which dwelt in Heshbon. Now, this guy, Sihon, had been another king that they had already run across, and being obedient to the Lord give them victory over Sihon. So he's telling them this other folk, these people are fixing to go, they were going against. He was going to give them God was going to give the Israelites a victory over these other people. And reminding them, I've done that for you then, I can do it for you now. We need to get a hold of that, folks, because that's what builds our faith. And it's really not, it's something to hold on to, and it's a little offline for this particular lesson. But when we stop and think about how much God has done for us, how much he has brought us through, how much he has helped us, then that helps us remember, and when our memory is stirred up about God brought me through this part of this place where I thought I never would make it, and if he brought me through that, and I know he did bring me through that, then why should I doubt he's going to get me out of where I'm at now? And regardless of the end of what I'm going through now, how it ends, if I put my faith and my trust in God and pray for him to have his will, it'll be the right way. And no matter how hard it is on us, remember, he was with us through all them other times, and he'll be with us through what we're going through today. So that's a little bit of extra there, just thrown in. Verse 3 says, So the Lord our God delivered into our hands Og. This guy named this is a great old big man with a little bitty name, Og. Also the king of Bashan and all his people, and we smote him until none was left of him remaining. So we wiped them out. Listen to this, 4. And we took all his cities at that time, and there's about 60 from what I remember reading in other places. And there was not a city which we took not from them. Well, right here it tells us 60 cities. A score is 20. 60 is 60. All the region of Argob and the kingdom of Og in Bashan. Now, there's a place over there in Psalms chapter 22 where the Holy Spirit revealed to David about the things that were to happen to Jesus on the cross in almost 1,000 years before the crucifixion, before Jesus was born, and he mentioned over there in Psalms 22 about the bulls of Bashan that were attacking him, and these people of Bashan were what we would consider giants. We'll get on into that a little bit further here in a minute. But anyway, I wanted to mention that Bashan was an actual place. And the people there were huge, and even up to the point of their referenced many times later. Verse 5 says, all these cities were fenced with the high walls, gates, and bars, beside unwalled towns, a great many. Now, there's a very significant fact that if they had fenced with high walls and gates and bars, that they were well fortified. But you know something? There's no obstruction that man or Satan can throw up trying to stop God's will, that God can't either tear down, destroy, or move to the side to where his people can move on through, whether it's physical or whether it's spiritual. This same God that was there with Moses and the children of Israel during this time, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is the same God, the same living God, and the same powerful God that we serve today. And it is protecting us and helping us when we're obedient and doing his will. Let's continue on. Verse 6 said, and we utterly destroyed them, as we did in Sihon, unto Sihon, the king of Heshbon, utterly destroying the men, the women, and the children of every city. Now, a lot of times, God has told them to do this. Sometimes things are so evil that God knows that it needs to be put away, done away with. And you say, well, that's awful, for them to destroy even the women and the children. Well, God knows what is the best. God had told them at that point in time to do this. And one thing that we see across the whole thing of the Old Testament, the things that held the children of Israel back were when they went against God's will and God's direction and married into this strange people, being strange that were not Jewish descent of Israel, the descent of Israel actually. They would marry into these people, and the wives that they married would lead them and off into worshiping the strange gods, the pagan gods that the wives and the people had been brought up to worship. And a lot of times that was what was happening. And sometimes God said, kill them all. Verse 7 says, but all the cattle and the spoils of the city we took for a prey to ourselves. Well, sometimes God would let them have the cattle and the spoils that come from the battle, but many times he would tell them, even kill the cattle. God does not want us to immerse ourselves in ungodliness and wickedness and idolatry, and even to that point. And I'm not saying we need to think about killing somebody that's evil and ungodly just because they're evil and ungodly, unless they're trying to hurt us or our families. But God does not want us to be immersed in that kind of stuff. And that's the reason we got to have on the whole armor of God so that we can get through this evil time. But anyway, I'm going to drop on down. I told you this big guy that had a little name, and his name was Og. He was the king of Bashan. Let's get a hold of this here. Verse 11 describes some things about him a little bit. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of giants. Behold, his bedstead, in other words, the bed frame, was a bedstead of iron. Now, why was it iron? Iron was a very strong material, and evidently he was heavy, huh? Okay, it is, and is it not in Rabbah of the children of Ammon? Here's a measurement. It said it's 9 cubits was the length thereof, and 4 cubits the breadth of it, after and the cubit of a man. Well, a cubit is around 18 inches. It was measured from the span of a man's hand to his elbow. So a normal man, the cubit was about 18 inches. So a bed that was 9 cubits long, if you do the math, it comes out to around 13 and a half feet. That's how long his bed was. And 4 cubits wide, that's about 6 feet wide, and it's made out of iron. So you say, well, so he was a big man. He was a huge man. Have you ever seen a man so big, so tall that he had to have a bed almost 14 feet long? So he could lay down and have room to lay on it. Well, yeah, it was built that big because he was that big. And if you stop and think about it, I remember when the mobile homes wasn't but 12 feet wide for a lot of times, and some of them were 10. Some of the older ones were 10 feet wide. And then they moved up to the 14-foot wide mobile home or trailer, or whatever you want to call it now. That's how long that man's bed was. And he was the king. His people were big too. But Moses and the children of Israel were following the same big God we have, and we got a mighty big God. Well, I hope you got something out of this. We got our Junkyard Redemption Vacation Bible School starting up Sunday night at 6 o'clock at God's Healing Springs Baptist Church. They'll run Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Bring your children out there. Come with them, 6 o'clock each evening. And if you don't have a home church, be glad to see you there Sunday morning, Sunday school at 10, preaching at 11. Today's the day of salvation. If you don't know the Lord, today is the day you need to do it. Love you. Have a good day.